Okay, welcome back. Now we're into the next process in integration management called Direct and Manage Project Work. This is about building it, getting it done. And this process is taking place to manage all processes within the execution process group. This is about overall management. In fact, whenever you see the term manage, you know you're in the execution process group. So direct and manage clearly puts us inside of that. Okay, it has any number of inputs, tools, and outputs. But one of the things I want to emphasize is that when you're in the execution process group, this is where we allocate resources, where we manage people and resources, people being resources, where deliverables are produced. This is where you direct performance, and it requires review of the impact of all project changes. So later I'm going to talk about project changes. They're getting implemented back in this process. Notice, they're getting input. Notice in the inputs, one of the inputs is approved change request. That's because later when I do the change process called ICC, and it's approved, it's coming back here to get implemented into the project. Okay? So the inputs, and it's also in this process that I'm collecting data. As I'm generating it, the widget, the was it, whatever, I am collecting data, just raw numbers. Remember, we call that work performance data. That's raw information, and that's happening right here. So my inputs, remember I said outputs of the last process become inputs to the next? So my last process was develop project management plan. So my input makes sense that it would include the project management plan. My next input also makes sense because I want approved change request. The approved change request may be corrective actions, preventive action, or defect repair. We've talked about those in lesson 1. So preventive action would be from an anticipated discrepancy coming. Corrective action would be from an actual deficiency, and of course defect repair. So we will want to incorporate these things into the project plan. And then of course you want, as inputs, you have project documents, including the change log. LL is lessons learned. RTM is requirements traceability matrix, and others. Moving on then to the tools of develop and manage project work. Expert judgment, and I've said many times now, it's individuals or groups with specialized knowledge. Your PMIS we talked about earlier, the Project Management Information System. An example of that is the WAS, the Work Authorization System. So here's a system which may be automated that does something important for you about sharing information. The WAS says no activity will start until the project manager formally authorizes it. And that's the Work Authorization System. It can be a type of software tool, could be an automated tool, etc. And then another tool, whenever I'm managing people and resources, I have to have meetings. And so some of the types of meetings might be kickoff, might be technical meetings, iterative meetings, morning stand-up meetings. Hey, what happened overnight? Where are we at? And what are our key big issues? Is everybody here? Showed up for work? That sort of thing. And steering groups, especially for broad or important policy issues. Then I have my outputs. My number one output when I'm building it, remember this is the execution process group, I'm building it when I direct and manage project work, is my deliverables, right? My deliverables, my product, service, or result. This is the key output of the plan that we just built, and it's verifiable, okay? And we're using deliverables as outputs to finish a process, a phase, or even the project. We're collecting work performance data. Remember, that's raw is the key word. We'll call measurements, raw data. The issues log is an output. The change request. So whenever I'm building it, I may see things that might be going wrong. and I want to correct them. So I might make a change request as an output to this process. And then, of course, I have project management plan updates to address my subsidiary plan. So if I'm going to change my scope, I might have a change also in cost. That requires integrated change control, but that would also be an output, and project document updates and OPA updates. That doesn't happen very often, but any organizational process asset can be updated as a result of this process. You do not see OPA updates very often, so please note that in your outputs to the project plan. Then I'm going to manage project knowledge. This is a new process. Starts on page 98 of the PMBOK guide. And I'm going to use existing knowledge and create new knowledge. Okay? And this happens in the executing process group, and we document these things for future projects and even future iterations of our own project. And we do it, of course, throughout the project. Okay? Knowledge is commonly split into explicit knowledge, and which is knowledge that can be readily codified, and tacit knowledge. This is at the top of page 100 of the PMBOK guide. Any exam for the PMP certification would ask you to clearly understand and define these. So please be aware. Explicit knowledge is readily codified. Tacit knowledge is much more difficult to express. And knowledge management is concerned with managing both tacit and explicit knowledge, that's easily codified and that's difficult to codify. And for these reasons, that reusing existing knowledge and creating new knowledge requires an understanding of these. And the key activities that underpin our projects involve knowledge sharing and knowledge integration. Okay? So tacit knowledge, an example might be how we define a family. It's much more difficult. It's personal and hard to express, involves beliefs and insights, where explicit knowledge might be a military organization and the acronyms and the definitions that we're like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. Got it. That's codified knowledge. And that's the difference between the two. Okay. So my inputs now become my project plan. So for the remainder of these, I'm going to have the project plan as an input. The plan tells me, here's my path, here's how I'm going to do something. So it makes sense that becomes an input to these follow-on processes. And then, of course, project documents are an input, including the ones listed here, and deliverables. So my deliverable becomes an input. It is any unique or verifiable product, result, or capability to perform a service. Now, I've said that several times. That becomes an important definition to know in project management. A verifiable product, service, or result to perform a service, to complete a process, phase, or project. And then EEFs and OPAs, listed examples in the book. Okay. Now I'm going to manage project knowledge, tools, and techniques. My first tool is expert judgment. Remember, individuals or groups and a specialized knowledge. Because it's managed project knowledge, it makes sense that specialized knowledge might be somebody in knowledge management or in information management. So those are just specific examples of the specialized knowledge we might use. Knowledge management itself becomes a tool, and that's how we create, share, and integrate knowledge learned through networking, through a common operational picture, that's a COP, through storytelling, meetings, etc. Information management becomes a tool through like lessons learned, library services, or the PIMS. And there it is again, interpersonal and team skills. Active listening. Remember, I'm managing knowledge. I must make people open to me. So active listening, leadership, facilitation technique. And my output becomes my lessons learned register. And project management plan updates, and again, OPA updates. Again, you don't see that very often, but there it is twice, and that's new to the PMBOK guide, this version. All projects create knowledge, so you'd want to update the OPAs in this process. Okay. What is knowledge again? I already mentioned explicit versus tacit. Those are examples of each, and it involves knowledge management. Okay. Then there's the monitor and control process. This is tracking, reviewing, and reporting projects. You want to understand the current state and what actions should we take to address future states of the project. We do this throughout the project. It includes collecting, measuring, and assessing information. Control includes determining the corrective and preventive actions we just talked about, replanning, maybe follow-up, that sort of thing. There are many inputs, including the project plan itself, project documents listed on page 108 of the PMBOK guide, examples listed there. But now we're in monitor and control. So what are my schedule and cost forecasts? And that helps me understand where I'm going. And we talked about in lesson 1, work performance information. That's the analysis of the data that I collected in the executing process group. Agreements that we've already talked about, and EEFs and OPAs. My tools become expert judgment again. Remember, individuals or groups with specialized knowledge. Data analysis, including cost-benefit analysis, which is CBA. EVM is earned value analysis, or it could be EVA. Root cause analysis. Where is my problem really coming from as I try and investigate potential changes? Trend and variance analysis. Where am I trending? That's why the inputs are the forecasts listed above. There's decision making as a tool. We can vote. Either we're all unanimous, or there's a majority, or a plurality. A plurality is that 30% say this, 40% say this, 20% say this, and 10% say this. Nobody has a majority, but the plurality says go with the group that has 40%. And my outputs are work performance reports, change requests, again, just like the executing process group called direct and manage project work. My output is a change request. I can't make the change here. I have to go to integrated change control, but I can make a change request. And of course, I can update project plan and documents. Okay. Some quick definitions on corrective, preventive, and defect repair, important for the exam. Please review those, and that is it for this lesson.